Hannibal Barker's legendary crossing of the Alps into 18 BCE stands as one of history's most daring military feats. It was a calculated gamble intended to shock Rome, disrupt its expectations, and demonstrate Carthaginian resolve. The journey was not simply a physical trek, it was a psychological assault, a political message, and a tactical masterpiece shaped by geography, diplomacy, and relentless willpower. To understand the story, we must begin with the First Punic War. Carthage had lost Sicily, its dominant naval power, and much of its prestige. The loss created political divisions at home and opened a path for the ambitious Barcid family, particularly Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal's father. Hamilcar rebuilt Carthaginian strength by expanding into Iberia, securing silver mines, tribes, and military manpower. From a young age, Hannibal accompanied his father on campaigns in Iberia. According to ancient sources, he swore an oath at age 9 to remain Rome's enemy. Whether symbolic or literal, the oath embodied the worldview passed from father to son. Carthage must never again be humiliated. When Hamilcar died, his son-in-law Hasdrubal the Fair succeeded him. Hannibal inherited command after Hasdrubal's assassination. By then, Iberia was a powerful Carthaginian military hub, enriched by mines and hardened by constant tribal warfare. Rome grew nervous and made treaties limiting Carthaginian expansion. The spark came at Saguntum, a city Rome claimed as an ally. Hannibal besieged Saguntum for months. Rome protested, demanded his surrender, and threatened war. Carthage refused, and the Second Punic War began. Rome expected Hannibal to fight in Iberia or Africa, not to attack their homeland directly. Hannibal, however, aimed for the unexpected. Hannibal's plan relied on speed and audacity. Rather than face Roman fleets, he would outflank Italy by land. He gathered a massive, mixed army: North African infantry, Iberian warriors, Balearic slingers, Numidian cavalry, and famously war elephants. Ancient sources vary on numbers, but he likely began with 90,000 infantry, 12,000 cavalry, and nearly 40 elephants. His march began in New Carthage, Cartagena, Spain. He moved north, subduing or negotiating with tribes. Crossing the Ebro River meant leaving Carthaginian territory and entering contested lands. Rome believed such a march impossible, especially one that included elephants. The Pyrenees were Hannibal's first major mountain test. Many Iberian tribes resisted his advance, forcing Hannibal into battles that thinned his numbers. Instead of brute force, he used diplomacy, allowing some tribes to return home. This reduced the risk of rebellion and preserved his army's cohesion. Reaching goal, Hannibal entered a region Rome barely understood. Some tribes welcomed him as a counterbalance to Roman power. Others resisted. At the Rhine River, Hannibal showed his tactical brilliance. He used a diversionary force to cross unexpectedly, surprising the Gauls, who guarded the opposite bank. Meanwhile, a Roman army under Publius Cornelius Scipio had arrived by sea. But Hannibal moved faster, slipping away before Scipio could intercept him. The Romans assumed he would never attempt the Alps before winter. They underestimated his determination. And so began the most perilous portion of his journey, the Alpine crossing. Ancient authors disagree on the exact route, but most scholars believe Hannibal took a northern path, avoiding the most hostile tribes and selecting a pass navigable barely for elephants. The first days in the foothills were rough. The Allobroges and other tribes attacked from high ground, rolling boulders, and launching ambushes. Hannibal responded with counter-ambushes, night marches, and negotiations using both force and diplomacy as needed. As the army climbed, the terrain grew brutal. Narrow ledges, sheer drops, icy winds, supplies dwindled. Elephants struggled for footing. Snowfall arrived earlier than expected. Many soldiers froze or slipped to their deaths, yet morale held. Driven by Hannibal's presence, Hannibal personally scouted dangerous sections and ordered engineering works, gutting paths, stabilizing slopes, and clearing rockfalls. One ancient story claims he used fire and vinegar to break through a rock barrier. Whether true or not, the passage was cleared. The most dramatic moment came at a high summit where Hannibal gathered his exhausted troops. He pointed toward the distant Italian plains, promising wealth, victory, and revenge. The speech renewed their resolve, at least enough to continue the descent. Descending the Alps proved even harder than climbing them. Ice made slopes treacherous. Pack animals died in large numbers, and elephants struggled with footing. But the worst danger came from hostile tribes who attacked repeatedly. By the time Hannibal reached the plains of northern Italy, his army had suffered massive losses. He likely arrived with around 20,000 infantry, 6,000 cavalry, and a handful of elephants. Yet his men were battle-tested, loyal, and emboldened by their survival. Rome was stunned. They had believed the Alps an impenetrable barrier. Now, a Carthaginian army foreign, exotic, dangerous stood in their homeland. Scipio rushed north to confront Hannibal, leading to the first major clash, the Battle of the Ticinus River. Hannibal's Numidian and cavalry overwhelmed Roman forces. Scipio himself nearly died, saved by his son, the future Scipio Africanus. The victory gave Hannibal control over the Gallic tribes of the Po Valley, many of whom joined him eagerly. Next came the Battle of the Trebia, where Hannibal used the freezing conditions to his advantage. He baited Roman forces into a morning attack after his men had warmed themselves and eaten. Hidden troops under his brother Mago completed the encirclement. Roman losses were enormous. Hannibal gained supplies, allies, and credibility. His elephants, though few, terrified Roman soldiers unaccustomed to such beasts. With control over northern Italy secured, Hannibal advanced south. Into 17 BCE, he ambushed another Roman army at Lake Trasimene, using fog and terrain to trap them. It became one of the largest and most successful ambushes in ancient history. Rome panicked. The dictator Fabius Maximus adopted a delaying tactic: avoid battles, cut Hannibal's supplies, wear him down. This Fabian strategy frustrated Hannibal but couldn't stop him. Finally, in 216 BCE, Hannibal won his greatest victory at Cannae. With a smaller army, he executed a double envelopment maneuver, crushing a massive Roman force. Tens of thousands died. Many southern Italian cities defected to Hannibal, yet Rome refused to surrender. They raised new armies, fortified cities, and tightened their grip. Hannibal, without reinforcements from Carthage, was unable to besiege Rome itself. Over the next decade, his position weakened. Scipio invaded North Africa, forcing Hannibal to return home. The two generals met at Zama in 200 BCE. Hannibal, though experienced, faced a well-trained Roman army and lost. Carthage sued for peace. Hannibal lived on as a statesman and later in exile, advising foreign kings and continuing to oppose Rome until his death. But his Alpine crossing remained unmatched. The legacy of the journey is immense. It reshaped military strategy forever, demonstrating that terrain could be conquered with determination, ingenuity, and leadership. Hannibal's name endures not because he won the war, but because he achieved the impossible. His march across the Alps remains a symbol of human will pushing against the limits of nature. Today, historians still debate his exact route, logistics, and numbers, but the essence is clear. Into 18 BCE, Hannibal undertook one of the greatest military expeditions in history, a story of courage, suffering, brilliance, and ambition that continues to inspire and astonish the world.